Hi,
Hi, Sarah.
Brian.
How are you?
Good. How are
Good,
you?
good. Glad we got the technical difficulties kind of figured out.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much for taking time out to do this with me
No problem.
tonight. I have a Stephanie on here. She's asking me one question. What is your feeling on events in the next year? Oh, Steph, I will get to that in a moment.
Things have changed.
Oh, wow. I
Yeah,
know. How's your evening
pretty good,
going?
pretty good. Just finished dinner, got the dogs fed, trying to pack for a shoot tomorrow out in Oakland. I've got to be there at 7 in the morning, so I've got to be out the door at like 5.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof. What's that travel like right now with like COVID going on?
Um, it's hit and miss. I mean, it's not normal. It's definitely not normal. It's can be light one day, but it can be heavy the next. Traveling through different counties have different restrictions on what's going on. So, in Sacramento, it's a little bit busier than in some of the Bay Area counties because they're a little bit more locked down. So it's just hit and miss. I mean, I'm going to treat it like it was a normal day. I've got to get there at 7, so I'm going to leave here at 5. I'll probably be there till 6, so I won't hit any traffic really on the way home. It'll be the tail end of traffic.
Yeah.
Going to be a normal long day.
Yeah, we have so many family members in the Bay Area, so we travel back there often. Um, well, I have some exciting things I want to hear about and talk to you about with your
Hmm.
company, but I want you to be able to kind of tell people that are going to be viewing just who you are and what your business is and kind of like what you specialize in as far as the wedding and special events kind of genre
Yeah.
feel. Like, how do you fit into that? So give us a little background on you and your business.
Um, wow. Okay. I came from a management background, so oddly enough, I ran boat shops for like almost a decade prior to doing this kind of work. And it all started really during the last recession when the mortgage market crashed. I was running a shop and it got shut down because of the crash and everything like that. And kind of always wanted to run my own business, so I decided I was going to start a clothing company. So I bought like all the screen printing equipment and things like that. And after a little while, I had my own kind of little brand. I wouldn't say it was big at all. I just was like giving shirts to friends and stuff like that. And I decided I needed a camera so that I could get pictures of my friends wearing my brand. So, I'd throw a party at the house or whatever, and everybody'd be wearing one of my shirts, and I'd just be walking out taking pictures. And I really fell in love with, being on that side of the camera. I liked being able to manipulate light and make images look how I wanted, different than what your eye normally sees. So that's kind of where the camera thing came into play. And then I would say in like 2013 is when I started doing video. And I fell back on my background of playing paintball nationally. So I went out to the paintball fields here locally in Sacramento, and my friends were still playing at the time. So I just started taking pictures of them, and then I started taking video of them. And a friend of mine was working for a paintball media company based out of Florida called Social Paintball. And he sent the guy that runs it, his name's Israel. He sent him one of my videos, and he really liked it. So he started sending me out to tournaments in Southern California and Las Vegas, and flew me out to Orlando at the end of that year. And then that got me noticed by another paintball company, and then I traveled the country the next year doing all the national tournaments, filming for them. Um, the travel got old real fast because I was in a lot of cool places, but I didn't get to see or do anything. I was from the airport to the paintball field, and that was it. I would just go back to the airport and fly home like 4 or 5 days later. And then shot my first wedding with a buddy of mine in like 2014 or 15, and it was great. I mean, it was awesome. Driving home, I told him, I was like, I could see myself doing this full time, and he was already doing it full time then. And he said, "Well, do it." I'm like, "Well, sure, easier said than done. You're doing it already." And I had a job at the time that I was making really good money at, and really comfortable living. And he's just like, "Do it." I was like, "Okay." So I put a plan in place, and at the beginning of 2017, I happened to separate from my job that I had at the time, and and just dove in head first. And it was scary for like the first year, just because, you know, you've got a brand new business really. And even though I kind of did it as a hobby, I was charging people here and there, but it wasn't a business until 2017. And then it was like, okay, this needs to be real. And, you know, I've got rent and, you know, a motorcycle payment, and I've got bills I got to pay. And yeah, it was scary. And then oddly enough, I'm kind of having one of the best years ever this year. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Good for you. So your bread and butter of your business is photography and
Correct.
videography. Do you preference one over the other as far as like when it comes to your artistic abilities? Because I know as like a designer, even though I am a crafter naturally and I love everything about what I do, there is components of my job where I just kind of favor it more over the other.
Yeah.
What would that be for
Yeah,
you?
I definitely favor video now over photo. Photo is where I got my start. You know, it's my background. There's a lot of stuff that translates from photo to video as far as, you know, you have to pre-visualize the look you want and think about what the end product is. You can't just go out and shoot something. You have to have a concept or an idea in mind. You know, the camera settings kind of work the same. The gear crosses over a lot. So you know, I'm just now to that point where I'm branching out into strictly video, and I still do a little bit of photo because I've got clients that I've done it for in the past. But yeah, it's just now I'm taking that leap to where I'm separating the video from the photo because of the changes in equipment and things like that, where everything's dedicated video. But yeah, I would say I definitely favor video over photo, especially when it comes to events and weddings and things like that. I like capturing motion as opposed to a still that conveys a story, right? Kind of sounds like cheating, but you know, capturing motion and emotion is a lot easier with video than it is a photo, right? A photo, it has to be exactly perfect. Video, you know, you can get away with certain things where as long as you're capturing that raw emotion or, you know, something that's happening, some kind of action, it tells a story a little bit easier than I would say photo does. But that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. So BPro Media is the name of your
Mm-hmm.
business, correct? And it's I've seen a lot of your work and it's amazing. I think that you are so correct with like how you capture emotion and like there's something to say about like at a wedding especially. It can be other events too, but with the wedding, you know, you're documenting that day. And I would say as a planner, I always encourage my clients to hire a videographer just because, yes, you want it documented, but it's like how it's
Mm-hmm.
documented. It really is important to have that because it holds so much
Yeah.
value. You know, like, yes, you can have your photos, but like a good video is just going to be just one of those things that you'll have forever. And like you'll be able to relive that, the words that were
Yeah.
said, the dress that she wore, the vows, like things like that are just, you can't really put a price tag on that. And so I hold that as a really high value for, at least when I meet with my clients, you know, we budget out or we, you know, allocate everything when they say I have this budget. That's always at the top of my list. And they go, here's why. And so I appreciate people that have the art and the patience to do that because I know how much editing goes into that. And it's just such a craft. So it's so cool that you do
Yeah.
that. Um, so would you say that like with weddings, it's one of those things that you like to do more of, or is there something specifically with events that you just really like love to shoot when it comes to like weddings or birthdays or a quinceanera? What is like the bulk of your requests from your clients?
So I would say the bulk, I mean, this year is obviously different. You know, I mentioned earlier I'm having a really good year, but that's outside of events and weddings, just because they're really not happening. I think I've only shot 3 or 4 weddings total this year, and 2 of them were before the lockdown happened. Um, you know, and I'm kind of in this weird transition period in my business where, for instance, like last year I shot like 37 weddings, and it was like, it was great. Don't get me wrong, I love doing it, but it about killed me. Um, just, the editing and I try not to shoot during the summer, but like this year you just have to kind of take what you can get. And the last wedding I did was 2 weeks ago, and it was 100 degrees and smoky, and you've got to, I've always been the type of guy that wears shorts year round, even in the wintertime. So, I've got to wear slacks and a black polo, and, I'm carrying around my new camera is 20 pounds at its lightest. Um, and so it's one of those things where I'm kind of getting off track here, but anyway, so I shot a bunch of weddings last year. It about killed me, and I really enjoyed doing it, but at the same time, like, I told myself even before the pandemic happened that I was going to scale that back this year. So I'm looking for like more quality versus volume. Because last year, pretty much if somebody inquired with me, I would shoot it. I didn't really take budget into concern. It was like, hey, what can you afford? Like, this is what I'm willing to do for that cost. So this year I'm really
Mm-hmm.
sticking to my guns as far as pricing is concerned, just for my own
Mm-hmm.
sanity and my own workflow. That's one of the things I'm struggling and trying to correct is my delivery times. It can take 90 to 120 days for me to get, a video out. And I always try and get, a small teaser or something out, so at least they have something to get them through.
Yeah.
But yeah, this year's just, it's changed all that, and it kind of forced me to scale back. But the second half of this
Yeah.
year's, like, I'm looking at my calendar for the next couple of weeks, and it's insane, absolutely insane.
That's so
Yeah,
cool. I mean, with all that in mind and in the forefront, with COVID, how is that, I know it's affected business in general, and it's extremely affected like special events like weddings. So many people are getting their venues are either canceling on them,
hmm,
or their vendors are dropping out on them for a various amount of reasons. But what are you doing differently to adapt to the times right now with COVID? So if a bride is like, hey, I really still want to get a video done. We only have this many people allowed. Like, she's had to like
yeah,
rearrange everything, and then you come in and she still wants to be able to possibly have that as a service for her. What are you doing to adapt? Like, are we doing masks? Is there anything that, like, besides state regulations that we have to abide by, what are you doing for the brides in order to kind of like pat her on the back and make her feel better? Like, hey, you can still do
yeah.
this.
So tying into what the question you just asked, I think part of what makes me stand apart is just the relationships I build with a lot of my clients. Um, you know, Even people that don't book with me, we'll go over pricing and what they get and everything like that. I'm like, oh, that's out of my budget, or we decided to go with somebody else. I still always offer, like, hey, if you need help with anything, like, reach out. If you need vendor recommendations, or if the other videographer you're looking at is telling you something and you're not sure of, like, reach out to me. I don't care. I'll give you my honest opinion. I've I've always been a very straightforward, kind of cut and dry kind of guy, which kind of bites me in the butt sometimes because people think I might be rude or something like that, but I'm very no fluff.
Yeah.
So part of what it is we're a small team, so it's usually me and one other person. Sometimes it's just me. I try not to shoot weddings by myself anymore, just because inevitably something is going to get missed, and it adds chaos to the day. But it's me and one other person. With the advent of technology and zoom lenses and things like that, we can keep our distance for the most part. We always have that conversation ahead of time, as far as you know, obviously, if you want me to wear a mask, I will. A lot of the venues, I think, are the biggest cause of a lot of the rescheduling and things like that, just because they're the ones liable for having large groups of people. But
Right.
brides still want to have their weddings. There's only been a handful this year where they're like, no, we're going to hold off because we've got elderly parents. Or, for instance, I've got one that was supposed to be in November in Napa, and her husband is from Sweden, I believe. And so his whole family is from Europe, and the airlines literally just canceled their flights. So they can't
Mm.
have their wedding because his whole family wouldn't be able to come.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's other things we do, like I disinfect all the equipment that, like the mics and things that we put on people. I disinfect those after every wedding. Um, yeah, I mean, if you want us to wear a mask, we're going to wear a mask. If you want us to stay away from the older people, the elderly or the older couples that are there, then we'll stay away. We can get what we need without being up in your face.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I think if I know that transparency of being just very black and white, it is what it is, and we'll adapt. Like I'm always saying that, and I think that's important for people to know, because I truly can tell you, like, based off of not everyone, but a few people have expressed to me that one big vendor like a venue will tell them, because they can't do that here, it almost prefaces the energy for like the rest of the event, so they are under this impression that the other vendors are going to follow
Yeah.
suit and say, well, because of this we can't do this. But that's why I'm doing this. I really want to like let people know that life is still happening, we're still doing things, and it just looks a little different now. And I'm glad I can kind of chat with different professionals to see not only like how they're adapting, but also like how we are moving forward and how we can support other
Mm-hmm.
small businesses, because ultimately that's what we are. We network with each other, we support each other, but ultimately, like I said, life is going on. We're gonna have fun still, and we're gonna just figure out a loophole and how to do that until the time comes where things may be fully open again. But I try to tell people, if you want to do it, let's do it. Let's figure out how to do it
Yeah,
together.
I mean, I
Um,
carry, I carry hand sanitizer in my car now. I carry Lysol wipes with my gear. I've got like a milk crate that I carry with me that I bought that kind of just stores miscellaneous gear, things that comes with me on every shoot. And it's got, Lysol, it's got hand sanitizer, it's got Clorox wipes, just so that I can be prepared for basically whatever situation I run into. And you were talking about venues and things like that. And I think that's the start of everything, because when you go to plan a wedding, the first thing you find is a venue, because you can't hire a photographer. I mean, you could, but you shouldn't hire a photographer, or a videographer, or an event planner. You might get an event planner before a venue, but really the venue is first, because you have to pick a
yeah.
date, right? You can't hire any
Mm-hmm.
vendors without a date. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the first straw that falls with what's going on right now.
Right. I felt a huge opportunity within me. I felt compelled with what I do, because you are right. Like, they think, I need to book the venue because normally it would be like a year, sometimes 2 years in advance where they'd be booked out. So I kind of come in and I say, okay, well, how can we figure this out? And like, let's
Yeah,
prioritize. And so that is helpful. If you do have somebody who does event planning, that if they're effective and strategic enough to where you have a relationship with them and they have a relationship with other vendors, then it all kind of organically works. And I think that's the beauty
yeah.
of it. Okay, so last thing I want to talk about is, what is the best way that the community can support you right now? So how can they support your business, and how can they get a hold of you, type of
So
deal?
you can reach me on my website, which is actually bprophoto.com, or text message. All my information's on the website. You can also find my Facebook. Um, I run my business word of mouth. I don't do any real advertising. I put myself out there on Facebook, on a lot of the like wedding groups and forums and things like that, when people are looking for vendors. Um, but that's it. It's all word of mouth. I would say 99% of my clients are, I would hate to say repeats for weddings, but it's word of mouth. It's somebody that I've done a project for that recommends me for somebody else. And speaking of which, I've got some friends of mine that I met doing their wedding 2 years ago. It's their anniversary today, and that led into other work and also a great friendship. So I try and see them at least once a week, and they're having their anniversary for 2 years today.
That's so cool. I will link down all of your
Okay.
handles on the video. And I thank you so
Yeah. Thanks for
much
having me
for
on.
joining me. Yeah. BPro Media. You guys like support Brian, and if you know anybody that needs a videographer or photographer, hit him up. and have that conversation. But let's have a good time at our events and supporting each other, and have a great weekend.
Yep.
Good luck on your travel
Thanks.
tomorrow.
Yeah, and then I got a wedding on Saturday, and it's supposed to be 105, I think.
I'm so over
Yeah,
this heat. I'm so
I
over
can
it.
deal with the heat. I want the smoke to go away.
Yes. Oh, me
Yeah,
too. I just need some fresh air. I'm a big outdoor
yeah.
person, so I mean, yeah, I totally agree. So Stephanie says, how would he describe his style? Oh, that's a
It's a
really
great
good
question.
question, actually. What is your style?
Um, so it changes. It kind of morphs. I would say I tend to lean towards kind of a photojournalistic style. I like to let things kind of unravel as they normally would. Um, I pose, or, if I'm doing video, I may set up a couple of shots just to make sure I get the edit that I want. But I like letting things just naturally happen. There's something to be said for things that just take place, without instruction or without, keying up. Sometimes you get, a couple that maybe is a little less camera shy, or I hate to say awkward, but maybe they're just not comfortable really being on camera. So you kind of have to key up a shot so you make sure you get something pretty and gorgeous to deliver to them. But I would say it's more photojournalistic and just kind of letting things happen. Yeah.
Cool. I like that a lot. And for businesses too, you'll give them a little bit of a direction, just kind of say go and just catch them like organically in their
Hmm.
element. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, doing like business promos and things like that, it's a little bit different, just because you tend to have kind of a strict outline on what you're trying to capture. For instance, the couple that I met 2 years ago, one of them, he's a contractor. He's got Wolf Construction, and he does, kitchens and whole house remodels. So we try to have a plan of what that video is going to look like before each project. So it's whether it's a testimonial from the client, or, you know, a story about whatever project we're working on, depending on what's going on. That's the layout. So you go in with a plan. With weddings, you kind of have an idea, but things change on the fly all the time. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, nice. I like that. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions on here, but thank you so much for
Yeah.
being
Thanks for
on
having
and
me.
chatting with me. Yeah, take
Yeah.
care, and we'll chat
All
soon,
right. Sounds
okay?
good. All right.
All
Bye.
right. Bye, Brian.